welcome to the WebSummit. So we're going to talk about regeneration the planet from Portugal. When we talk about regeneration, we never mention only the agriculture part. Are we talking about experimental actions or mostly about environmental and humankind development and growth, Gil?
Yes, Mariana. Yes, we are. So regeneration is a different paradigm. So it's and also a set of competence, and it's very different from what we currently use as a sustainability. So it's not about doing less harm, which is understood by mainly the current sustainability, but it's about how to see the whole system, the whole planet as a living system, where all the other systems, such as the continents, the countries, the local communities, are nested within this system. And it's about how can we operate at all these levels that make them all thrive and support all other levels above or below. And considering then these systems with the water cycle, the nutrient cycle, including the carbon, all the natural ecosystems, the human systems, the ones that we created, the cultures, and also the economies, they're all part of this living system. And regarding the food production, as you mentioned, it's only, again, a fractal of this system. However, it's a fractal that can has an impact, a strong impact in all the other systems. So if we produce the food in a way that regenerates the soil, then this soil will be able to capture nutrients, store water in the aquifers. If the cultures are diverse, it can also boost biodiversity, not only the ones that we are producing for ourselves, but also all the rest of the natural system. So this also increases all the other benefits, not only pollination and elsewhere. It can be a culture, an agriculture that, for example, also fosters the local cultures and the celebrations, and brings also the schools to learn from what is being done regionally. So regeneration, it's basically a way of how can we make all this system thrive. And of course, as I mentioned, is about how to change the paradigm and also a set of competences. And we have to solve the current issues at the different level of consciousness that created them, as Einstein also said. So it leads to a lot of personal growth. So not only us to connect with ourselves, us to learn how to live in a community with the other ones, and also how to connect to the living self and learn from the life principles that came out of that. And in fact, in Portugal, we have a lot of examples of that happening. For example, BioVilla, it's a cooperative in Palmela that manages 50 hectares of land. And it's really working of how to regenerate, and they are bringing a lot of courses for people to learn of how to do that. We have another example at Monte Moro Novo. Herdade de Ribeira Baixo is a 400 hectares agriculture site. It's also a cooperative. So we also see a lot of this cooperative structure in order to support this personal and collective development. And they have, it's a cooperative of consumers and producers, and they do also regenerative agriculture. So again, how to restore soil, bring biodiversity, and a different economy that makes the social and the natural capital to thrive. Another example, now going a bit more different, there is also a company called Mendes Gonçalves at Golgan that is very known worldwide for producing sauces. For food, and they are starting to produce most of their food locally, not only by themselves, but also engaging with local farmers of how to do it in a way that it's organic, that restores, and that values the local culture. So on another aspect, I mean, if we go back and also coming to some of the work that I'm doing as a researcher, eco-villages started 50 years ago in Europe, namely with this intention of how can we live differently, not only of how to grow food using permaculture, agroecological knowledge, how can we build differently? How can we produce energy in a different way? And namely, how can we relate to ourselves and really build a community in a different way?
Pedro, as the zero waste movement improves and grows, we realize that most of the times we talk about a fight against something or against somebody. How can we solve or help to solve this problem? By integrating good practices and by knowing that it's just a shared journey.
Okay, thank you for your question. And by working with plastics for so many years and now leading the Portuguese Plastics Pact, plastics is a specific example where the fight against something is very particular and very focused. And when you fight against something, usually you get very easy results, and you can do that individually. But sometimes you're not so effective as we see with the plastics. So we start with a major discussion about plastic pollution, and everybody started to switch from plastic straws to bamboo straws, or a plastic cup for a supposed paper cup. So these actions, in fact, many times lead to even worse results than the ones that we want trying to solve. So we really believe in the Portuguese Plastics Pact that we need to fight for something, fight for sustainable use of plastics, fight for a circular economy for plastics, fight to end plastic waste. And when you fight for something, you can unite different stakeholders. Imagine if you go to the plastics industry and say, I'm fighting against plastic. Or if you go to a retailer and you are asking them to help you fight against packaging, they will not join this fight. But when you say, and you come to them and you say, I want to fight for a sustainable use of plastics, a circular economy for plastic packaging, they will most probably join your movement. That was exactly what happened with the Portuguese Plastics Pact. By fighting for a circular economy for plastics, by fighting for the end of plastic waste and pollution, we united almost 90 organizations by now that work together to find solutions to solve the global plastic pollution crisis that we have seen. And we do that collaboratively. So joining forces is not the addition of individual efforts. It is joint forces for the same purpose. And we think together, how can we use less plastic without losing its value? How can we together work to reuse some of the packaging that before was single use? And for that, you need the industry, you need the retailer, you need the end consumer, and you need the recycler all together. And again, in the Portuguese Plastics Pact, we also discuss on how can we maximize the value of the material. Because if we maximize the value of the material within the economy, we never lose it, either as a waste or as pollution. And we make the most out of it. And it's shared value. Everybody wins in this circular economy for plastics. So this is most of the work that Smart Waste Portugal, as the leading organization of the Portuguese Plastics Pact, has been done in the plastic side. But I can tell you that within the Smart Waste Portugal framework, we also tackle other different sustainability issues such as food waste, construction and demolition, and always focusing on collaboration as the way to solve and to fight for a more sustainable world and a more sustainable business model. So this is the framework that we look for, and we work every day.
Mm-hmm. And the words you use every day, right? So, Ana, every day we know more about sustainability, ecology, zero waste. We know new brands, new projects, new ways of doing and communicating the problems and the solutions. How can we build this consciousness that the teamwork is the solution of for this problem?
Thank you. So zero waste is really nature's operating system. So hence it's our greatest school. What doesn't serve one really serves the other in this very complex web of interbeing that pushes life to thrive. So really to envision a zero waste culture, we must dive deep into these positive reciprocal relationships and include all of life in the loop, because our severed relationships have really made the scale of challenges very great. And we I really believe that we cannot face this without realigning on values, on true commitment to humility, to learning how to listen and even to disagree with elegance. We need to learn from those that maintain healthy relations with life. We really should and must share knowledge and resources and be really brave together in our complementarity, so that we may redesign systems of healthy and respectful relationships, because also problem solving is not enough. I really believe that the convergence point must be made clearer and even dreamt higher, so that we can also create a pull from there, not just push ourselves out of the mud. And just like zero waste, regeneration is a convergence point. It is direction for our individual and collective journeys that really places life at the center of decision making. So, like it was said before, minimizing damage cannot be the goal, but it is a very valid step. Every step counts, and some really mark pathways. We are a part, as Zero Waste Lab, we are a part of the Portuguese Plastics Pact, and we also collaborate with several regenerative projects, making these triangulations whenever possible between civil society, between the operating systems, and these emerging alternatives, because we really need to improve what we have while also experiment with the new, so that this transition can happen for all. And case studies, for instance, on their own, they're not enough, but they are fundamental leaps to validate possibilities. And I really believe that networks of case studies might change everything. And this is where networks come in, to secure this enduring change across the spectrum, and also to guarantee collective compromises that may be economically viable while also evolving economy itself, because today externalities, they have proven too dramatic not to be taken into the mathematical formula of cost, and collateral damage cannot be any longer acceptable. So collaboration really, and this collaborative experimentation is how Zero Waste Lab mostly operates, by designing and experimenting with pilot projects that can devise new systems within this generative framework, both ecologically and socially speaking. We have to consider this interdependence and responsibility towards the full cycle of life, but also focus on something very important, which is to regenerate trust in one another. And our work is very focused on that, and also on finding cohesion between these many nodes of change. How can we prevent repetition of costs and efforts? How can we avoid out of focus investment? How to pinpoint contradictory measures often proposed by different departments or different political bureaus? So it's really important that the agenda is a single one, with different operating agents working in complementarity, rather than just different fronts that seek to know each other and build bridges of collaboration whenever it's convenient, because that's really how collaboration mostly tends to work for now. But I guess we're all a work in progress. And about Zero Waste Lab, I'd like to share that we are now kickstarting 2 projects that aim at that. One is called MIC, which stands for Impact Chain Movement. And we are mapping out infrastructures supporting zero waste in the city of Lisbon initially, and working closely with local communities and 10 projects operating in those territories to make sure that every euro spent can have a maximum impact on the communities, but also positive impact on the environment. The idea is to really provide guidelines and a set of criteria so that future evaluation of any kind of project operating at the local level can guarantee that it adheres to the highest zero waste standards, while also helping people get there. So we are really hoping that this may help not only projects, but also governments and investors alike to bring zero waste goggles to evaluate this impact, more life and more humanity. The second one is focused on toys, right? As an acupuncture point to talk about all this plastic that is prevalent in our lives, but is not even included in recycling schemes yet. We'll also be addressing the quality of plastics. Did you know that #1 toxicity complaints in Europe were about toys in the past 2 years? I didn't know that until recently. And as a mother, I believe that this issue needs addressing, as does the growing marketing targeting children. And so in partnership with Opal Lab, it's a laboratory in the north of Portugal, who is leading the precious plastic community in Portugal. So we are bringing together the best of independent laboratories so we can have innovation and agility in responding to local demands. And when I say local demands, I mean in creating new products that will benefit local needs, but while also coordinating with industry and its capacity for scale. And everyone's invited for this. And so, just to wrap up, I really believe that waste has proven to be this extraordinary acupuncture point for the greater conversation of shared responsibility. And it's not only palpable, but truly democratic. So it really starts with working on ourselves, because when we do, we can genuinely give the best of ourselves to the world. And the time to scale it, collectively is now, taking this from heart to network and for life. Thank you.
Talking about now, we are in the end of a very challenging year. So what was well made and to put health and environment in the same plate, in the same place, in the same plan? Ana, you can start now.
Yeah, it was indeed a challenging year, but I think it offered very powerfully the gift of introspection, and those that were committed to the environment really reinforced it. While at the same time, many hearts were open to both the fragility and the interconnectedness of all life, and also the planet's capacity for regeneration. And I believe that was very powerful. However, I'd also like to point out, not only in Portugal, but I think across the world, that there was a huge opportunity missed in really reflecting upon, for example, the impact of disposables that was really pushed as the only solution to safety. And it really undermined years of educational efforts on environmental practices. So there's really an opportunity here to trial safe reuse schemes and deeper individual commitment to safety without pollution. So it's still not too late, and we really need to discuss this seriously and revert this throwaway culture, because it's impossible to fit safety and environmental together.
Pedro.
I think it was indeed a challenging year. It was the year of the launch of the Portuguese Plastics Pact, so we were kind of worried, as we believe that the top priority will be health. So we as human beings, survival at first stage, at first level. And what we saw from launch till now is that human species are quite amazing, and the number of entities joining the Portuguese Plastics Pact grow much more than we expected in normal times. And also across the globe, we saw lots of plastics pacts being launched in the middle of the pandemic. People just try out different ways to organize and to work to a more sustainable and pollution-free environment. And what is incredible is that with all these pandemic crises, economic crises, people found the time, the effort, the commitment to strengthen their efforts to build a better world for future generations.
Thank you. Gil.
So just I saw a lot of things, great things happening. I saw many schools, alternative schools, where kids were more together as a community and nature. I saw the Ecolise, which is a European platform, launching Communities for Future platform, supporting communities all over Europe to really be regenerative. Portugal just launched in mid-November a platform that measures all the SDGs in all municipalities, all the 17s, which is amazing. Like, it's SDG Local or ODS Local. And I also had amazing conversations with people from the funding agencies, really about we want to put the money in regenerative projects, and we want that this financial capital is a source to promote social and natural capital for our children and grandchildren.
Okay, thank you, Gil, Ana and Pedro. And now back to the WebSummit in Lisbon.